It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No! Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yeah! Yes! She is gone!
I can't believe what I just saw!
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Back from Batu on a journey that was definitely less than 12 parsecs. You know, I had this whole intro planned, assuming that we were going to be going live, and this was going to be such a phenomenal effect for my introduction, but we decided not to. So for those of you who are listening to this on the audio podcast, we'll just get these a little bit closer so that you can hear the sound.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have quite the effect on an audio podcast.
Oh man, I'm sorry to disappoint you tonight. And you know, Pete, I'm the one that, and for anybody who's going to be listening to this, that downloads this, that watches one of the live streams that we usually do on Thursday. Last week was so relaxing, not having to be on time, right? Although we're recording right now and we're actually a minute early. It was so relaxing not having to be on time and then not having to, I think what happened, Pete, to me was that live video game we tried to do pissed me off so much. I wanted nothing to do with the internet for a while. And I think it was a lingering effect, but still, even when we've done those joint shows with Cub Cards Cast, we don't go live with those usually. And I don't know, man, it's so much more easier on me. The blood pressure is better.
Well, you know what we should do before we get into your blood pressure and Elliot's contract extension? We should remind people that this is the Team of Rivals podcast. We are proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, and you can follow us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, and we're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. And for those of you who are watching the inevitable podcast video that we will throw up on YouTube or that other platform that Ron is starting to detest more and more, hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure to ring that bell so that you receive notifications anytime we post new content. And obviously we've already kind of gotten into it with one of them, but anyway, joining me for tonight's show, permanent occasional guest host Elliot Dewey, and number 48 in the 2020 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall. Gentlemen, nice show last week. And did you miss me? Yes, you did.
Of course we did. Of course.
Always, especially miss you for the end of the show when you could take us out.
I heard you guys made a complete hash of that, man. And just so you know, it's not memorized. I do have, if you guys would just open Slack, it's in there. There's a show open and there's a show close channel. And I just pull it up and I pull it right up under that camera. And you think I'm looking at your pretty logs? I am reading every week.
I'm going to accuse you of not telling us about that when you probably have, and I ignored the message.
That's probably true.
Right? Yeah, I know that's true.
So what do we jump into here, gentlemen? The fact that the Cardinals narrowly missed being no hit tonight right before the game started, or the fact that somehow the Cubs managed to pull out a 2-0 victory and make a two-run homer by Javier Baez in the first inning hold up against the Mets after looking completely inept the last 3 games.
Yeah, guys, don't even start telling me about inept. We might as well start off with the Cardinals. I mean, what what a lousy 2 weekends in a row. I was blacked out one weekend. They played the Reds and got swept in 4 games. That's a real telltale sign. And it told me.
And got called out by Joey Votto.
Well, you know,
yes,
that's fine. We played the clip of that last week, and
had a half full stadium. Granted, you were playing the Marlins, but had a half full stadium on your first opportunity to have 100% capacity in St. Louis. That must be embarrassing.
even the Cubs did better.
No. Hold on here. Now let's look at this in a very practical, geographical way. Okay.
Okay.
If St. Louis has the metropolitan size of one of the Chicago teams.
Oh, here we go. You know what? Because here I'm going to boil it.
You've never had that excuse before.
Because the Cardinals didn't sell out that game, they deserve a compensatory draft pick. Am I right?
Sure, I'll take it. Rockies will pay for the contract too.
There you go.
But no, seriously. In St. Louis, yeah, I don't know what percentage of the fans lives in the metropolitan area or just across the river, right? I don't have that study on me. I don't know if anybody does, but all I know is that even if I looked at where I used to live, about 2.5 hours away on a good night, maybe 3 if the traffic was a little heavier. These days, I'm probably not making that trek on a Tuesday night. I'm probably not, and especially out of a pandemic. Now, the other part that I cannot deny this part, the way they've been playing, to get swept by the Reds at home, to get swept by the Cubs at Wrigley Field, to split against the Indians in between, which the Indians aren't a bad team. They're not putting out the kind of excitement level that you would need to get somebody on a weeknight to make that 3-hour drive or to make that all day or take a day off of work to go watch them. I mean, so I'm going to give you half of what you're looking for. Half of what you're looking for is you're looking for me to try to rationalize my way out of it in any way, shape, or form. But I can't deny the fact that the way the team is played, that it has lowered the interest level. But the city also doesn't have 6 million people sitting right there, 12 million people that are within, an hour of the ballpark. It's not the same thing. So I said in the off season, I said, look, even if baseball opens up their stadiums 100%, I was very shocked if many ballparks end up selling out, even on the first night. So I'm not surprised. I am surprised that the attendance was like under 25,000. That was a little surprising. I'll admit that. Embarrassing. I don't know if I should be. I'm more embarrassed by the way the team's playing. I don't really fucking care about the attendance record right now. I don't care. And I don't care that it goes in the opposite direction. If this team doesn't play better, sorry, Cardinal fans are loyal as ever, but they're going to watch it on TV that night rather than taking a day off of work.
Look at the White Sox. They're in first place with the best record in the American League, and they still can't get 5,000 people to go to
pandemic or
to
not.
the cell.
Pandemic or not, they don't care. They still weren't going to. The only way they pack that house is if they get to an ALCS, and they might.
Right. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah,
right.
And the same way with Tampa Bay or anything else. The only time you ever see those stadiums fully packed is either on an opening day, on a normal year, or deep into the playoffs where people, all of a sudden they want to catch this because they don't know when it's ever going to be there again. So,
and I tell you, it really doesn't make sense because it was like that even back in the 90s when they had a brand new ballpark and a consistently winning team. The White Sox still, any night you could get good tickets to see the Sox, and it's still that way. And I don't know if it's that they pissed off their fans by knocking down old Comiskey or what, but it hasn't been the same since they built that new ballpark.
No, and I look. There's looking for a silver lining in regards to St. Louis with interest level being down. And I bet if you could take a peek at TV ratings, I'm almost bet that those are down too. I haven't looked it up or seen it, but I would bet that that's down too. Not to mention they've pissed off a ton of fans. Baseball has just in general with all the blackout shit going on. I subscribed to AT&T TV. I used its free 2-week trial so I could just watch them play the Braves tonight. Whereas, as you know, Elliot, YouTube TV dropped. They're not carrying Bally Sports regional networks anymore.
No, and then Hulu or Marquee dropped Hulu and signed a contract with Fubo TV for this season, which makes absolutely no sense because if you look at the top streaming services, Fubo is not even in the top 5, I wouldn't imagine.
But I guess my point I was making was, the blackouts, the way the team has been playing. Gosh, I tell you what, guys, even if I were still living back in Bloomington, I don't know that I don't know that I go out of my way to watch a game as much this year. I really don't think I do.
Speaking
If you were a season ticket holder, would you have gone to that first 100% game?
Well, they just come off the sweep of a Cubs. I'd be pissed at them like I was. It's a good question. I don't know if I can answer that one way or the other right now. I really don't.
Fair enough.
Tell you, Ron, speaking of the way the team has been playing, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's something that to be concerned with this year, given who's going to be on the free agent market. But are there any concerns that Nolan Arenado may take his opt out after next season if the team continues to play like this?
Yeah, I think. Look, I'm not saying anybody should be in a panic over it, but I think seeing the way that things are going right now, and well, see the way up to this point right now, Pete, I would say it's probably not a slam dunk that he doesn't opt out. It's probably not a slam dunk. And why I say that is I think it largely depends on how the team responds to this, how the front office responds to this. Are they going to get him an arm, anybody that's serviceable, just to, if anything, just to try to get through 5 or 6 innings during their turn? I think largely depends on what the office proves to him, whether it's going to be a slam dunk or not. I still think it's likely he doesn't, because that's a pretty sizable deal. But it depends, man. If shit keeps going the way it is, and you can only beat the Pirates and Marlins, which probably account for half of your victories, the league's not full of teams like that. They're full of teams that are okay, and maybe their record doesn't suggest that. But like the Braves still have a pretty good outfit, and they couldn't. I tell you what, man. As soon as we start dogging on the pitching being just awful, you look at that offense and you look at the number of runs they score per series. They scored 6 runs against the Marlins. End up sweeping him. Amazing. But you play a good team, you don't win with that kind of offensive production. And then against the good teams, the teams that actually know how to hit, that's when your pitching really gets exposed. So I don't know, every facet of their game is just really falling on its face right now. The offense is the maddening one because we don't have a slew of injuries there. You can't blame the offensive production on the fact that Harrison Bader's out. Nice try. That's not going to fly, right? When you've got Arenado and Goldschmidt right in the middle of that lineup with Carlson playing a little bit better. I mean, he hasn't had a great week, but there's no reason that lineup is averaging shit. I think they've been held to 3 runs. I don't know how many times, like it's in the 20s. They're definitely in the bottom third of the league as far as offensive production. And tonight they got even worse. So,
and you know what? It doesn't help when every game, one or both of Matt Carpenter and Paul DeYoung are in the lineup, and they're not doing shit.
I know. Yeah. Well, you're basically summarizing all Cardinal social media right there.
I mean, you look at the Cardinals lineup tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You were giving, and it's surprising. Of course, it's not surprising.
Carpenter batting cleanup yesterday, guys.
Carpenter got one of the Cardinals hits tonight so far, and he got hit by a pitch. I mean, but looking at that lineup, 7, 8, 9, you look at that and you're like, oh, well, that's 3 easy outs for the opposing pitcher.
Oh yeah.
Just looking at it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're basically going out there, if you're lucky, you're going out there against 2/3 of a lineup.
Right.
Most teams can produce. And what happens is you get out of the 6 that you think are capable, usually about half of them aren't doing shit in a single game. So I don't know, guys, all going into this attendance thing you brought up, Pete, you put all that together in a blender. Right now you don't have a very entertaining product to watch. And which is
death, considering that it's St. Louis and it's so boring anyway.
Sure.
So if you're not going to go to a Cardinals game, what are you going to do? I guess you can drink.
We can do that.
I don't think that's ever been a problem for the Hillbillies.
I think that's part of the reason why they drink.
Have you seen some of the videos of your bleachers, gentlemen?
Did you see the bleachers on Sunday night? That what was it? What they figure that $48,000 cup snake?
43,000. Yeah.
Crane Kenny was having an orgasm when he saw that on camera.
He's sitting there.
Yep. And Jed had Tom on the phone. Tom, you see that cup snake? You know how much money that is for one game just in the bleachers?
Can you imagine
a starting pitcher, damn it?
Can you imagine if you dumbasses didn't sign Jason Hayward?
Oof.
You know how many cups that is, guys?
It's a lot of cups.
That's a lot of cups, right? Yeah, you got to sell a lot of beer to make that up.
Jason Hayward and a lot of cups.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, Ron, since you bring him up, it's not like the Cubs are stacked with a murderer's row, right? Because right now, Jason
Can he
Hayward
go back on the IL?
Jason Hayward and Ian Happ are basically automatic outs. And I think that I think at this point, the argument is over for Ian Happ. I'm sorry, you can't make an argument, and I'm stealing the show for the Cubs back for the Cubs fans. You can't make an argument that's going to convince me that Ian Happ is going to come around. This is his MO. He figures it out for a month or two, and then he looks completely lost up there. I can't see investing in him as one of the future cornerstones of this franchise. When he gets to the end of arbitration, thanks for your time, Ian. We appreciate it.
I mean, we'll have to continue to keep Hayward in, but as soon as Horner is healthy, then I mean, we'll see. Hopefully we see more Matt Duffy and have him continue at what he's done this year. But those two guys need to get back in the lineup. I feel like Jake Marisnik's been still continuing to do what he's done. I know he's getting back from that injury, but man, we need to get a couple of those guys out of there.
Yeah,
we're being forced to play them.
You guys got guys running up against arbitration, and they're not. If you're not favoring them, then you're fortunate. And what we've run into too many times with the Cardinals is those guys end up getting extended well before they hit this thing, like Paul DeYoung. Right. And so, yes, the Cardinals front office, if it wasn't clear to them this year, if you look around the league and see the names that used to be in their system or they didn't really give an opportunity to play, but now they're playing, Adolis Garcia being the latest chapter in that book, Patrick Wisdom. Look, I don't know, guys, if you're going to get this version of Patrick Wisdom for that long, but ride the wave while you can, right?
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But I'd probably more look at Garcia. Like, they've got to figure out, I know we're all over the place here, but since we're on the systems and some of the failings of the Cardinals this year, fan frustration stems from all of these things. You look around, Luke Voigt led a truncated season, but he led the American League in home runs. Randy Arozarena in the playoffs, obviously there's a story there. You got Adolis Garcia now tearing the cover off the ball down in Texas. I don't know how he's done over the last week, but, he's been in the headlines. So, the Cardinals had all these guys. So at one point in time, they recognized that they had talent. So they've failed in a couple areas. One, it's either being able to develop that talent, or in their evaluation, just placing a higher rating or evaluation on some of these other guys that haven't panned out. So they're missing it somewhere. We've said it on here, and I think Mosaic's even come out and said these. They got to challenge themselves a bit on who they're placing their bets on, because they've swung and missed on several of these now. And speaking of Ian Happ, I know you guys are ready to write him off, and I'd written Tyler O'Neill off last year. Wasn't even in the starting lineup in the playoffs, right? And we'll see. I'm not going to say he's turned his game around, but he's looked a hell of a lot better in his approach. And he's not a defensive liability. He's a very good defender, and he's fast as hell. He might be the fastest guy on the team. So he's got other skills that can contribute to a win. Outside of just being able to rip the cover off the ball, but he's made some improvements. So some of these guys can turn it around, even when you think they can't. But we'll see. I mean, there's still a lot of baseball to be played left this year, and we'll see once the league adjusts to his adjustments, if he can, sustain it. But I don't know if you're at the end of your rope on Happ. I've been there with Bader. I've been there with Carpenter. I've been there with O'Neill. I was there with Grichuk. I was there with Biscotti, so I feel your pain.
I tell you, Ron, I get it. The one where I honestly would give your organization a little bit of leeway is on Patrick Wisdom. Because on him, the clock just ran out, and it's the same thing that happened to the Cubs with Tyson Miller, right? I'm sure they would have loved to have kept him in the system, but he's now at the end of his rope, and they needed the slot. And he's not at the point right now where they felt like they could dedicate a 40-man spot to him, because they don't know what they have. And I think that's my sense of what happened with him with the Cardinals is the time ran out. and they didn't know what they had, and they had to make a decision, and they made a decision that I think most organizations would have made with him.
Yeah,
He hadn't shown the progress. So everybody who's given the Cardinals a hard time because of how hot Wisdom has been with the Cubs, that's because the Cubs had a chance. The Cubs got to take a free flyer on him last year in the pandemic year, and they got to see him develop when nobody else did. So when he went back, because what a lot of people failed to recognize is he was only signed for last year. He went back out on the market, and the Cubs almost lost him to an overseas deal. Nobody else in the majors had any interest in him, but the Cubs had the advantage of having seen him make those adjustments last year and develop. And so they were on him, and they said, if you don't take that overseas deal, we're going to do whatever it takes to get you back in our system.
And injury created a way for him to,
precisely.
Yeah,
precisely. So the Cubs on this one, the Cubs lucked out. Yes, they correctly identified somebody that they thought that they could unlock something in him, but they lucked out in that nobody else had an opportunity. Had he been at AAA with the Cubs last year in a real season and gotten to the end of his minor league season, given what we've seen this year and what we undoubtedly would have seen last year, somebody else would have picked him up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you're probably right. And you're right, Pete. It was a matter of, we can only carry and protect 40 guys.
Yeah.
If you're going to plan any acquisitions at all or clear out room to create opportunities for younger minor leaguers who you haven't been able to really give them sustained opportunities, that's what they had to do. That's why Garcia was moved. And his few, small amount of opportunity he was ever given up at the big club, he didn't show much. But somehow these guys are able to do a little bit more once beyond the Cardinals organization or system. A few of them have, right? Never used to be that way. Cardinals were, I don't know if it was a matter of being really good at this or being lucky, but they fleeced a lot of organizations over the years in trades. And I'm not saying it's caught up with them or they've lost their magic touch, but they've gotten several of these things what would appear to be wrong. Now, the Cardinal fans that are yelling about Patrick Wisdom, these are the ones that haven't studied up like you just did, Pete, that kind of know the facts behind it. They see a guy, oh, I recognize his name from the system. Look at him tearing the cover off the ball. There you go, Mozeliak, another swing and miss. A little bit different story on that one, but to the casual fan, yes, that's what you think.
Right, because you see the names like Rosarina and Garcia, take off with other organizations.
Yeah,
and those are legitimate criticisms, right?
Absolutely.
That is absolutely legitimate. When you made the trade for Liberatore, you had a choice, and you chose Harrison Bader over Randy Rosarina for whatever reason.
And O'Neill. Yep.
Yeah.
And time will tell. Again, when you trade for a minor leaguer like that, even if it's a highly touted prospect, time will tell whether you lose that trade or not. And I think we talked about this during the playoffs last year. When Liberatore is brought up, probably within his second full year is when you'll know whether that trade paid off for him or it didn't.
Yep.
And that's not going to be. I don't know if we'll see that kid up here this year. I know a lot of Cardinal fans are screaming for it, and they do this every fucking year. They want every minor leaguer to come up and save the day. And some of these guys have pitched a real limited amount, hell, at even AA. So they're not coming up anytime soon. It'd be stupid to bring them up right now. I get it, right? Like arms are falling off, elbows are snapping, obliques are being torn, and you're ready to hit the panic button. But they're better off getting some guys that might be floating around there on the market that might be able to throw some strikes and let these guys continue their development in the minor league system. And if, you gotta take it in the seat this year, you're going to have to, but you can't rush these guys up.
And, Cubs fan or Cardinals fans, aren't the only ones who see this sort of thing with these guys who have been either let go or traded. I mean, every time the Cubs face the White Sox or the Yankees, I mean, they see it with Gleyber Torres and Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease. So don't worry.
But you understand,
it happens to a lot of people.
Pay attention, know why that trade was made when it was made. Like, look, this guy may come back. It may bite us in the ass.
It still hurts.
Right. And same when, Jimenez is out right now, but probably people are forgetting about Eloy Jimenez. If he wasn't injured, you'd be seeing him on a first place team right now in the same town. And there'd be a grumbling about that too. But, when those deals were made, they were done for a reason. The Cubs had a window, although I think they had a longer window than most do, but they just jumped on an opportunity when they got, we're likely to see this guy in an all-star uniform for the Yankees at some point in time, but we're going to win with the club we have right now. And, best of luck.
Yep.
Along those lines, I think that actually raises a really excellent comparison for the Patrick Wisdom choice by the Cardinals, and that's Jorge Soler. It wasn't exactly the same, but the Cubs made a decision, right? Time's run out on him. We can't continue. We are in a window and we can't wait for him to develop. So we're going to ship him out and we're going to get a closer to extend our window with the understanding that he may develop, but that's the chance that we're going to take.
See, he reminds me so much of the situation with Adolis Garcia, more so. Both outfielders. I don't know. Was Soler Cuban?
Yeah.
And so was I believe so was Garcia. So I probably have that wrong. I'll get flamed on that one later. But they remind me so much of each other. That right-handed potential power, but just couldn't figure something out at that age. But they figured it out a couple years later. That's what it reminds me of, even more so than Wisdom.
And what doesn't help what didn't help Soler also is that he's allergic to the cold, and he's playing in Chicago. Just moving a few
and he's
degrees,
a terrible outfielder.
Well, yeah, just moving a few degrees south to Kansas City has, it's clearly made a difference for him because he doesn't have to play in those kind of frigid temperatures.
Guy had a gun. He just couldn't field the ball.
My God, you remember the playoff series when he was out there and he looked like he was dressed like an Eskimo?
Yes,
he's already a bad enough outfielder,
and it's only 40 degrees.
You got him like that kid on A Christmas Story, all bundled up.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. He couldn't put
Randy.
his arms down.
Yeah.
And he couldn't hit in the winter then, or in the fall then either, because he couldn't get his arms around because
he'd
so much padding.
He'd dive for a ball and he wouldn't be able to get up to throw the ball to wherever he needed to because of
Speaking of an arm but can't manage the 12 inches above his shoulders, how's old Puig doing anyway?
I don't think has he signed with anybody?
He's making out with his bat somewhere.
I don't know. Give me a second. Vamp for a second here, Ron. Actually, Ron, you know what? One of the things that I could have used when the boy and I were on our trip, used a little trip insurance. You know anything about? Obviously they don't offer trip insurance, but you know anybody who does offer insurance?
I do, and the last thing you want to worry about is being financially responsible for something you had absolutely no control over. So take control of it right now. The Wiley Group can help with that. They have 2 locations in Festus and Arnold to serve you. They offer home, auto, boat, motorcycle, business, life insurance, investments, and much, much more. They can customize an approach unique to your situation to make sure you, your family, and assets are properly protected. They offer great rates and savings. Give them a call today at 636-764-6294 to do an insurance review, or you can just talk sports. If you don't have time to call, feel free to email Sean at SeanWiley@allstate.com.
And in answer to your question, Yasiel Puig is the starting right fielder for the Aguila de Veracruz team. I'm sorry, El Aguila de Veracruz in the Mexican League.
Okay.
So at 30 years old, the wild horse has apparently washed out.
Well, there's some sexual abuse allegations against him that is
keeping
him from probably being signed by a Major League Baseball team until it gets hashed out.
Yeah. Who was on the verge of signing him? I don't recall now.
But he was with Cincinnati,
with Cleveland, I think. His last team was Cleveland.
Cleveland? Okay.
Yeah.
No. It was
it's
yeah, no, you're right. It was Cleveland. It was Cleveland.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because
yeah. So what's funny, guys, is that I know we brushed on this too. Not that I take coronavirus lightly, but on my short list of players that I absolutely, if I had to put a paycheck down on saying this motherfucker is going to get coronavirus just from being purely irresponsible, Puig was on that list. Carlos Martinez on that list.
So as a matter of fact, going through his Wikipedia page on July 17, 2020, Puig tested positive for COVID-19.
Oh, Jesus.
Nixing a deal he was expected to sign with the Atlanta Braves.
Yep, that's right. That's what I remember.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he was on my list. Like, this guy's going to get it. He's going to get it because he's going to go out and do something stupid.
What a dumbass.
Yep. Just like our pitcher.
Yep.
Some guys you just look at, you're like, you're going to get it. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't. It's like nothing you can do to stop it. Even if you put those guys in a bubble.
It's awful.
Yeah, they're off having sex in a bathroom with a caterer who's been God knows where and brings the shit all the way back to the team. Not even talking coronavirus, talking like gonorrhea.
Yep. Nice.
All right. Well, Yeah.
So,
So
Elliot, how despondent have you been over the last week, given the way that the Cubs have played after a fairly decent start to the month of June, which we knew going in was going to be a crucible?
Well, I've been pretty lucky because I've been on vacation since last week. So I've missed about 75% of the games against the Mets. I did catch tonight's win for the most part. But I've been checking the box scores and stuff like that, and it's not been great. Yeah, not fun. But I did go see a Tennessee Smoky games and got to watch Brennan Davis play, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
His bat didn't look very good, but his fielding looks great.
His bat didn't look good. That's what everybody's so excited about.
I think he just came back because he had I want to say it was like a 125 batting average. So I think he's either getting back from injury or
That's right. He had a late start.
Yeah.
To his season.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? The Tennessee Smokies are only 11-24 right now. So,
okay, I was just kind of going through Twitter here to see reactions. It's always fun to go through there on a night when the Cardinals don't do anything. With that base knock, Carp takes a 13-point lead over DeYoung in batting average.
oh geez,
that's literally the only thing you can report on from that game because they didn't do a goddamn thing. The rest of them are cries for the Cardinals just to remember how to hit. Here's one. Can we just keep playing the Marlins till this shit gets better?
Well, you guys can also play the Diamondbacks. I mean,
we took 3 out of 4 in Arizona.
You could do that.
That's what I'm telling you, man. I you know what 2 or 3 weeks ago I put up the stat, their winning percentage against sub 500 ball clubs and plus 500 ball clubs, and I'm sure it's gotten worse, where I bet 75% of their games it feels like have been won by sub 500 teams, and they are just dismal against anybody 500. It is laughable, man. It is so bad right now.
But think about how quickly that can turn, right? Because that really is a snapshot stat, because at the end of the year, some of those sub 500 teams will end up being above 500 and vice versa. And it's all
grades are going to be over 500, right?
Yeah. And unless you are just terrible, right, those numbers are eventually going to even out. I mean, you know, it's not going to change for the Diamondbacks, because apparently they're,
Jesus Christ, I thought the Pirates were bad.
23 road games in a row.
They lost again today, didn't they? Or
Yeah, they set a new record, 23 games in a row.
Man, that manager probably
this could end Troy Lovello's managing career.
He probably wants it to. I mean, can you imagine like having to get on a press conference or Zoom after every one of these games? Like, what do you keep saying? And there was a tweet out there tonight about Schilt. Like, can we not just? We all know what you're doing. You're taking the heat for your team. You're doing the all shucks thing. You know, you got to tip your hat to the Atlanta crew tonight. Like, I think everybody would just love one game where, you know, you have a manager like Lou Brown.
You're lollygag.
We hit like shit tonight. You know, do you just want to hear a manager come out and say that? Like, we had balls that we should be hitting. We're either taking them or fouling them away. We're not doing shit. We're not taking the right swings and situations. We're not getting it done. We can't really put our finger on it because it's hard to believe this many guys could suck all at the same time. But it's what's happening. What do? Yep. You fire Jeff Albert, which look, guys, I don't really give a frog's fat ass who the batting coach is. He's not out there batting for him. And this isn't Little League. He's not going to, hey, timeout, Blue, and go out and lift Matt Carpenter's elbow up. Got to get your elbow up, buddy. Like, it is not like that. That's not what Major League hitting coaches, that's not how they operate during a game. I mean, now, can you look at it and go, you know, their approach has sucked for 2 years now? Can you look at the batting coach then? Maybe, but I'm not really sure at what kind of an impact these guys have, right? I think the pitching coach actually has more impact on what happens in any given game than a hitting. I have to think that, right? I don't know. I'd have to job shadow a hitting coach to figure out how they actually affect a game or an approach or a series, or how they affect these players throughout the course of a year. And I just don't know enough, but I do know this. They're not talking to these guys in the dugout. Hey, line your knuckles up on that bat. Make sure they're in a line. Lift that elbow up. That's I don't know if you hear a hitting coach say, "Keep your head on the ball, Goldie. Keep your head on the ball." I'm not sure what they do at that level, but I don't think that firing Mike Maddox is going to all of a sudden they come out the next day just firing strikes and stop walking people. No,
Yeah, but Ron,
not gonna
look,
fucking happen.
this is true across professional sports, right? You can't fire your players the way that you can in
Sure,
the
well, you
lower
got
levels.
union protection. Sure, you can DFA them, but when they've got 2 or 3 years left on a multi-million-dollar deal, you're not going to.
You still have to pay for it.
Exactly,
you know?
right.
So yeah, and so that's what always happens. It's not unique to baseball. Anytime that a team's not performing, the first thing that they do is they fire the coaches, and it never has an effect, except for the Marlins.
It might have a short-term psychological effect or a boost or something, because sometimes these things are done, like when you see a manager fired or a coaching staff, it's partially maybe they believe they need a new voice in there, but also it's to shake the team up a little bit. Just like when there's a trade that happens, sometimes they, the couple times Mozeliak has stepped up and done the right thing is when he dealt Joe Kelly and Alan Craig to Boston for John Lackey, because those guys were clubhouse guys. They were up with St. Louis with a lot of the guys they were in the minor league system with, and some of these guys can create this thing like, hey, we're part of this family, this thing here, and we're comfortable. And all of a sudden, you shake up that level of comfort, and you scare the shit out of everybody, and you try to get your team jump started that way. So it was 2014, I think, when that happened. But you see those things kind of occur from time to time. I think. I don't know, I can't remember who it was that got fired for the Cardinals pitching coach. I can't remember his name now, but it was before Matheny was let go his time. So yeah, sometimes those things are done for effect, but I don't think you fire a guy like Mike Maddox and fan base, let him go one day, and then all of a sudden the guys are coming out there throwing nothing but strikes the next. It's just stupid. That's not going to happen.
But it appeases the fan base, and it gets them off your back for a little while.
Yeah,
so don't be surprised if Jeff Albert goes probably sometime in the next couple of months.
Well, and you know what? He may need to. Ultimately, you think more about it. How much was, I may be talking out of my ass here, but how much of his resume could have been padded over what happened in Houston when he was there, right? I mean, you look at that hitting coach was there. Look at these averages. Look at what they did with runners in scoring position. Look at all this shit before you ever knew what occurred. I think that does have a little bit of an effect on your resume, especially when you're shopping yourself around the league, perhaps for a bigger responsibility or a promotion. I don't think he's got much of a long rope left. I think if this team keeps hitting the way they're hitting, bringing in the guys that they've brought in, they're going to have to make a change somewhere. But they were trying to do a long-term thing with him. His approach was going to be as far reaching as the minor leagues. So it's supposed to be like a philosophy, and it was going to be taught in the minor league system and all the way up. And many Cardinal fans are freaking out going, well, if that's the way his system works, what we've seen at the major league level, then we're going to be dealing with this shit for another 7 to 8 years until we flush the system out and get new people in there again. So,
well, but how many guys who are currently in the lineup are products of that system?
Quite a few, except the guys they've traded for.
Well, but Goldschmidt's not, Arenado's not, Carpenter's not.
No, Carpenter, it was before Albert's time. Yeah.
Right.
But
so
some of the new guys aren't helping his case out though. So that's been part of the problem. Look, and if they were in his system when he was there, now they're with another club hitting the shit out of the ball when they're not, not under his tutelage.
Still
so
on your podcast?
No. Who was that?
Oh, I missed it. That was awesome. Thank you.
We didn't have one of those. Nothing like that happened last week.
No,
I know.
You still
It
doing
hasn't
that
happened
there
in a while.
podcast?
because they weren't home.
That's right. We didn't hear a police chase scene in the next room or anything like that.
No,
it was a clean cast last week.
It was. I don't know how much baseball I have left in me tonight, fellas, but they're got a 4-game set against the Braves here. The Braves are a sub 500 team, which actually surprises me a little bit. Just I don't cruise the entire league standings that often. Couple things that jump out to me: San Francisco having the best record in the National League. Yeah, you're right. In baseball, like by far in the National League. Are they really this good? I don't know.
The way they played the Cubs, they are.
Yeah. Why does San Francisco do this shit every so often? Like, you don't see them coming. I mean, maybe if you're a Giants fan and you've known the system for years and you see it coming, but like the rest of us, like all of a sudden the Giants are good and they weren't very good before. And now they're good. And you're kind of scratching your head going, okay, normally when teams are going to make that leap, you hear about it in the offseason. You hear the guys like, Tim Kirkagen and Keith Law and those guys from the Athletic are talking about, they're be projected a little bit higher, but I don't recall San Francisco being high on anybody's projections. And now here they are.
I mean, at the beginning of the season, they had the West in a 2-team race for the most part. It was San Francisco and LA, or LA and San Diego.
That's it. Yeah, that's all you heard about.
And right now, you've got San Diego 6.5 games out of first place in that division.
Well, that's because they can't handle the Cubs.
Well, that's neither can the Dodgers.
Fucking true, man. You take those games against the Cubs away, they're right there tied, right?
Right in it.
Yeah.
And and this is not to take anything away from the Giants, but this isn't to take anything away from the Giants, the Dodgers, or the Padres, but they get to play the Diamondbacks a lot.
This in Colorado.
Right? And as much as we rag on the Central Division, yes, the Pirates are absolutely that bad. But Cincinnati is right there. They're only a game or two behind you guys in the standings. So
they're ahead of us.
Are they ahead of you now?
Oh, the Cardinals have been in fourth place for like 4 days now.
I haven't been paying attention to the exact alignment. I just know that the Cubs are.
But if you look at this, I mean, still tonight, the Cardinals are 35 and 34. So they're still a winning ball club. You look at around the rest of the league, you've got, I guess, the Central has 4 winning ball clubs. The West has 3. The East only has 2. So
yeah, think about it. You guys are in 4th place in the Central. You would be in 2nd in the East right now.
Switch with the Marlins.
Yeah. We'll take the Marlins.
Mississippi. We can never be in the East. Just that's like a law, right? Wouldn't that?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I guess there's one thing that Elle can hang her hat on is that the Baltimore Orioles don't have the most losses in Major League, but they are right behind Arizona.
Yeah, but if Arizona keeps playing the way they're playing, it's gonna be a fight for the 2nd draft pick, because Diamondbacks are just atrocious. They had a 7-0 lead. What was it, last night, the night before, and they blew it. I mean, that's Pirates level in it.
Hashtag that's
you really got to try to lose.
Yeah, that's maddening. And again, I credit to that coach. I don't know how you even face the media every night without wanting to just lash your own, throw your own team under the bus. I think you lose 23 consecutive road games. I doubt it was many managerial miscalls on who to bring in from the bullpen, and more about your team just not fucking playing very well.
Right. Just not having the talent.
And you eventually at some point get sick of defending them on those goddamn Zoom calls with the smart ass media. And eventually you are going to snap and throw your own players on the bus. And he should.
At 14 losses in a row right now, he should be like, if these guys aren't playing like hard, like if they're not they're giving their 100%, he should be like, well, these guys just aren't playing well.
No, I mean, you know what?
I mean, that's it.
I'd call my clubhouse down after the next loss, which is bound to happen probably tomorrow. I would get everybody out of that clubhouse except staff that are there every day, equipment managers, make them feel like a part of it. Media, get the fuck out of here. I'll be out there in a second. I'm like, guys, I've defended you. Let's see. 16 days in a row. We had a couple off days. 16 days in a row, I've had to go out there and lie to the media. So I want you guys, like, one of you want to volunteer to go out there for me tonight? Or somebody want to kind of feed me a couple lines. What do you want me to tell them about your performance? You want me to say the effort's there? You guys are trying really, really hard. I sound like Mike Schultz right now.
A for effort, buddies.
You want me to say you guys are just grinding? You're really trying. You're really trying. We're going to turn the corner here soon. You want me to tell them that? Because I don't think any of you believe that. So what do you want me to tell them? I know you're all sensible, pride-filled athletes, but what do you want me to go out there and tell the media? What am I going to lie to them about tonight? Or do you want me to just tell them what I really think? You guys play like shit. You guys make my dick soft just watching you from the dugout.
Keep going, man.
You should be a coach.
I had the same speech to my little league team.
Hey, speaking of,
I seriously, I'm sorry, like, you know what? One of you little bastards is going to find yourself in an Amber Alert in about 30 minutes.
So you actually told a bunch of little kids your play makes my dick soft?
Yeah. Oh God! No, I think I would enjoy not being in jail way too much. The Amber Alert thing might have been true.
Yeah. Oh.
Did your dad tell you to hit this bad? All right. Yeah. Get your elbow up, buddy. Fuck. I'm kind of done with baseball tonight if we want to transition. But before we transition, just talking about baseball just stresses me out. The other thing that stresses me out is just buying a new vehicle. And it doesn't have to be stressful. Fifth Street Motors, located in Pacific, Missouri, will help you find the vehicle you need no matter what brand. Fifth Street believes in giving you the best price on a pre-owned vehicle that would fit your budget. Give Brandon or Don a call today at 573-259-1306 and tell them Gateway City sent you. Let's talk about something else.
I mean, I could talk about my experience of the last week.
I want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
When I went there, the resistance ride was not online yet, but I did do the Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
We did walk around a bit and we milled about. But yeah, I want to hear all about your experience, Pete. How was that ride? And did you get to do the Falcon thing?
So we went 2 days. We went on Friday and then we went again on Sunday. He ran out of steam on Friday. And on Sunday we were basically there until the park closed. So he was up for it. The cool thing about it, and I don't know if they had it up and running when you were there, Ron, but what I really appreciated about it is that Galaxy's Edge is as immersive as you want it to be. So if you just want to go and you're a casual Star Wars fan, and you're like, oh, this is cool, and you want to ride the 2 rides that are in Galaxy's Edge, and then go and walk through the rest of Hollywood Studios, and you have no particular affinity, you're going to be fine with it. But if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan and you want to get immersed, they have provided that for you. You download absolutely anybody who is listening to this, anybody who asks me, if you're a diehard Star Wars fan and you really want Galaxy's Edge to come alive, download the Play Disney app and load the Star Wars data pad and immerse yourself, because it's got a translator on there. You get to accept jobs through your phone. And so you're hacking transmitters and you're hacking the ships that are around. You're intercepting communications and decrypting them, and hacking.
Can you be bad though? Like, do
Yes.
you have to be
Yes.
good?
No, you get tracked along 3 tracks: Resistance, First Order, and Scoundrel. And you can progress along all 3 of those. And there's even a cooperative game where the concept is that, and they've got all the entry data pads, that you see in that Han was trying to hack into to get into the bunker in Return of the Jedi, right? Those are all over by the doors. Well, those are accessible because of location tracking, it knows that you're close, and you can quote unquote hack those. And when you do, and all the things that you can hack, the long range antennas, the ships, the doors, everything, when you hack them on your phone, it actually interacts with those things. And so you suddenly hear noises, which got really fun for the boy, because we'd be sitting there and he'd hack the X-Wing, and all of a sudden the X-Wing would start making noises like it was powering up, and steam would start coming out of the back of the X-Wing. And the people who are standing in front of it to get pictures freak out. They turn around to see what the hell's going on. Or somebody's standing by a door and all of a sudden the door starts whistling and the lights start going. And he just got such a kick out of that, out of knowing that he was actually controlling the experience. He loved that. But then they've got all kinds of QR codes all over the place on crates throughout, and you scan them with the Play app, and it tells you what's inside of it. And those are connected to all of the various jobs that you can do. So, you're not actually getting anything tangible out of it, but they've got all kinds of badges and supposedly costumes and stuff. And there's an element where you can play a game with other people who are there throughout the course of the day. You can trade the items that you collect when you scan the crates, so that if you have, 3 of Han Solo's blasters and you run into somebody who's looking for one, you can trade it to them for something that they may have in excess of. And it ends up being a great way to pass the time when you're in line for Rise of the Resistance, or you're in line for Smuggler's Run, because they've got all those things, all those crates that need to be scanned or doors that need to be hacked. They are part of your experience in the queue. So rather than just standing there and moving 3 feet at a time, Boy and I are like, oh, he's looking. He's like, Dad, I found another QR code. Dad, hey, Dad, is there anything in this room that needs to be hacked? And it's like, here you go. And he loved it, especially day 2. Like, he really immersed himself in it. So that makes it so much more immersive. And then obviously there's the whole marketplace, and the whole conceit behind the Toydarian toy maker is that it's supposed to be on Batu. So you don't go there and you don't get Black Series action figures. You get hand carved wooden figures, like they would be if they were on some remote planet where they don't have that, where they carve things out of wood. He bought, with money that his grandpa and grandma gave him, he bought this wooden sand crawler with 2 little Jawas that go inside of it. And it looked, it's a wooden toy, but he loves it because it felt like
you can't walk into a Target and buy that. You can't buy that on Amazon. Yeah, that stuff is really cool. Unfortunately, my kids did the exact opposite. But they didn't have that whole app thing when they didn't have that stuff, but I could totally see now we didn't have to wait in line too long, I think, for the Smuggler's Run ride. I think it was only about 40 minutes, but of course you're kind of, the way the lines form, you're getting all kinds of views of the Millennium Falcon that's sitting there, like a life-size one. So that wait wasn't long, especially for a guy like me. I'm like, even out the window, the kids are all looking at their faces, and I'm above them with my face up against they're just staring out at it. It's really cool.
I sent my dad a picture when we were walking through the line of the back of the Falcon from those windows.
Yeah.
And he texts me back and he says, "Is that the Millennium Falcon?" I said, "Yeah, it is. It's that big." I said, "Yeah, it's a full-size real Millennium Falcon."
Yeah. And if you were to stand, in that entrance where most people walk up to Galaxy's Edge and they get to that part of that part of the park, it's you can pick out guys and girls alike that are somewhat near in our age, that when they see a full life-size Millennium Falcon for the first time, you can see it in their faces when they first get view of that thing. And that's probably the exact, it's just,
you can see it on the guy right here, right? He's older than us and
freaking out.
He's pointing something out to his wife, girlfriend, whoever it is who's there with him.
Yeah.
There's something about the Falcon that he's pointing out to her. Oh, that's the,
that's where that Minoc was chewing on that power cable.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So in answer to the questions that you started with, yes, we got to ride Rise of the Resistance twice, and we rode Smuggler's Run 3 times.
What was your job on Smuggler's Run? Because Sam and I went on it, lucky enough to be pilots, both of us. Now, us piloting together was a different story. But what was your job on the Smuggler's Run ride?
Well, let me tell you, now is absolutely the time to go. Because of COVID restrictions that they're still observing down there at Disney, they're not mixing groups in there. So when he and I rode the Falcon, the first time we were the pilots, the second time we were the gunners, and the third time a friend of mine who lives in Orlando met us there. And so my friend and I were the pilots, and the boy was the gunner.
Oh,
no, he was the gunner. We never engineered.
That didn't sound like a very fun job. Will was gunner behind us, and just randomly, no sequence to it, not following instructions or anything. He was gunning behind it. But so that was such a cool ride. Of course, it was full blown. Park was packed during those days.
Now, you only rode it once, right?
Well, I wasn't gonna. We got lucky. We got there at the right time, and we only had a 45-minute wait. But every other time I checked in on it, Pete, was like hour and a half. So yeah.
So when we went on Friday, we had about an hour long wait. Mm-hmm. And then we went on Sunday, and around 1 o'clock, around 12 o'clock, 12:30, the skies opened up, and it was a torrential downpour, and the park cleared out. It was half full maybe for the rest of the afternoon. And so we went and we rode after the rain calmed down, we walked over and jumped in because we had to kill time until we got to build our lightsabers. Our wait on that, it said it was 45 minutes. We were through in 35. And then when my friend met us later in the evening, it was 20 minutes. Like we were overlooking the Falcon I mean, it took us longer to get to the overlook of the Falcon than it did to get through the rest of the thing, because you had to go through all the various things and up the ramps.
See, and when you're in that little holding area where you see the hollow table and all the chairs. And
oh my God,
I mean, that was, the problem is, like, by the time we got there, we weren't there very long. I got pictures of my boys sitting at that table as well. Yep.
The boy and I have a picture sitting at there. And the thing that I really appreciated about it is that everybody who works there gets it. Right. And so there were so many times it was, hey, can he jump this line right here? You know, because Rise of the Resistance, like the way that they have it set now, it's not like it was initially, where it was this mad scramble to get in. Now, if you're within the Walt Disney Resort boundaries, like the whole Walt Disney World, and you've got a reservation for Hollywood Studios that day, then you can get a boarding group at 7 a.m. And then they do another set of boarding groups at 1 p.m. So the first time that we rode it on Friday, I got us in on that 7 a.m. And so we were on, and they send you a text and it's like, your number's up. We will hold your spot in line for an hour, which means that you're not standing in line for 4 hours.
Yeah.
You just, sometime in that hour, you show up, you walk in, you tell them your group number, and boom, you're in line and you're on your way. So that was great. And then we also got the 1 p.m. on Sunday, and it was the same thing, and got the notification that we had an hour as we were standing in line waiting to go in and make the lightsabers. And still, so it was like, I was sweating it because I was thinking it's going to be cutting it close, and we made it with 5 minutes to spare, but it was good to know that it was that, rather than having to spend the whole day at the park standing in line for one ride.
Yeah. And
that having been said, Rise of the Resistance was amazing.
Yeah, I didn't get to go on that. And not that I'm asking for spoilers on it, because we're definitely going to go again. But the whole my boys are young and they're not the most calm, so I wasn't gonna drop the money on the whole lightsaber event. But I've watched several YouTube videos of the experience. I'm pretty familiar with it. We did the cheap version, the little shop where they throw the plastic one together, because then they can beat the shit out of each other with them, and we're not out $200.
Not worried about it.
Decide to shatter it. But you know, it's as much as cool as that place was, and I know it's probably different now. They've definitely been able to tweak it since it's opened. Still though, as an old school fan, I'm like, I can't help but to think, Pete, like, how cool would this have been if it was a location that we knew from the movies, that was just a bit more familiar? If they had a ride that wasn't necessarily set in the sequel era, if they had a ride that was just kind of take us back a little bit to, you know.
So here's the thing. Here's the advantage that they have. Given the nature of those, and one thing I will say is, it'd be great if they could figure out how to add another ride or two, because really it's a small area, and there really are 2 rides. There are multiple experiences, right? Like the various restaurants are pretty darn cool. The whole lightsaber thing is an experience. Like, it's not just, okay, go ahead, pick out your stuff, we put it together, here you go, here's your lightsaber. Right?
Got your shit, now get out.
It's immersive, right? They tell a story with it as you're doing it. You know, it's a 20-minute experience, and it's not just picking out your pieces and here you go. But the advantage of Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run is that because they're so heavily based on video, they can change
them. Yeah.
They can easily, and so they don't have to change the actual spaces, but they can change the ride, and it doesn't cost them anything. But like the little details, and I'll send you guys the video of it. Like in Rise of the Resistance, and I know you guys have seen the videos. You come out into that bay, and there's the garrison of stormtroopers standing in front of you. Some of them are animatronic, and the movements are slight. So you're standing there and you're like, oh, this is cool. They set up all ththese suits of armor. And then you look and one of them is breathing. You're like, oh shit, is there a person in there? And then you look at another one, and another one standing there, and all of a sudden it turns its head and it looks at you, and you're like, wait a minute, they have people actually here. But then when you're there long enough, you realize, no, it is animatronic. But still, it's cool to walk out and think that here is this static scene. It's not static. They've picked out random stormtroopers that are moving to keep it immersive. And they've got a goddamn TIE fighter hanging from the wall, just like it does in the movie. I mean, like, and it's full size, right? You walk in, you're like, oh man. It's really, really
cool. I am looking forward to going back down there just to see that. But I still have that little bit of me goes, yeah, man, wouldn't this be cool if this was like like the cantina, or if this was a location that was from the OT. That would have been awesome. But hey, look, my boys enjoyed it too. I think the last time my oldest was down there, like Star Wars theme park, I think it was still a small world or whatever the hell it was before, but so he hasn't seen it at all yet. So I'll have to get him down there as well.
I would say the next time you go, definitely be sure to download the Play app, because that's what turns it from a cool little take on a theme park that's themed Star Wars to truly making it immersive. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like next year when they open the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Well, I gotta ask you this: did he ride Space Mountain?
No, he did not.
Holy,
he did ride the Avatar ride the very first night we were there, and I think that's what put him off on trying some of the other more intense coasters, because that Avatar ride, there are some points he and I were both talking about, we were like, I don't know, I kind of felt like I was going to get a little sick there.
Let me tell you this: Space Mountain, I hadn't even heard about it. My wife's family lives down in Florida, so it was a ride we could get onto relatively quick. We were in that part of the park, and we took our boys on it. And it's an intense, and I'm sure if that roller coaster was out in the open where you could see, it's probably not that bad. Problem with the Space Mountain, it's completely dark,
all dark,
and it's just lights. And we got that photo at the end. We didn't get it. Her cousin got it, downloaded a photo of the boys and Sarah in there, because it only fits 3, and I was in the next car, first seat behind him. The look of pure terror in Will's face is just incredible. It is my favorite picture of him, because he's embracing the horror. His eyes are wide open. He is it is pure terror. In fact, while we talk here, I'm going to pull it up. You guys maybe have seen this, but he was embracing the terror. He was not shying away from it, while Sam was in the very last seat, head between knees, not looking at anything. It is by far my favorite picture of them. And I'm going to pull it up right now because it is so worth it. Pete, I'm glad you didn't take him on that, because both boys were crying off of that ride. I mean, crying. And it was the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
All right. So I haven't been there since I was 8. So when you can get into the park, besides Star Wars, and it sounds like you can get to the Avatar stuff, what else can you get to within there? What other themes can you get to?
Can you guys see my screen?
No, you got to share it. That green button at the bottom of the screen.
Can share at a time. Multiple. Yep. Okay, well, I'm trying. It says screen.
So that's the funny thing, Elliot. So Avatar, the whole world of Pandora, is at Animal Kingdom. Star Wars is at Hollywood Studios. So I mean, it's 2 completely separate parks. That's awesome.
Embracing the terror.
Yep. Completely freaked out.
Completely hiding from the terror. But I mean, that face
that's awesome.
I could hear him screaming the entire time.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
It's one of the best pictures I have of those two. It is my favorite.
Speaking of that, I think give me co-host rights so I can share the screen. I can show you guys what I was talking about as far as
you're gonna tell me how to do that. I don't know how to do
that. So click on me.
Okay.
Click on the 3 dots there, and then make me a co-host.
Make host. How about that?
Or you could do that. So Elliot, you were asking about it. At Hollywood Studios, so they have a Toyland, and that is a total Toy Story thing. And so it's all scaled up, so it feels like you're in the Toy Story world, right?
Right.
So like the Buzz Lightyears and everything are as big or bigger than you. All of the cues and stuff are sized up so that it feels like you're walking through a world of toys. So you are there. And then there's a section of it that feels like you're walking through like 1940s Hollywood. Like the old school.
Now, is the Avengers part going to be a part of that eventually, or
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to work that out
or is that going to be Universal?
No, because that's Marvel, and
right.
what they did with the Tower of Terror. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still that way, but the Tower of Terror out at Disneyland. I'm sorry, at California Adventure. At least when I was there, but that was like 4 years ago. That was totally Guardians of the Galaxy themed. That was a Guardians of the Galaxy themed ride. And obviously they take two different approaches to California and Florida. So I don't know where they're gonna. It would make sense that they would put it down in.
Yeah, because I thought they were
Hollywood
doing like an
Studios.
Avengers Tower, and they were doing that whole theme.
Yeah, it would make sense for it to be at Hollywood Studios because they do have
and watch the Marvel park like be
huge
and way better.
God, yeah.
Well, way more thought out, and I hope not. But anyway, speaking.
Well, if you've got Kevin Feige in charge, it will be.
Well, speaking of those two franchises, now I was able to watch the first Loki episode, and I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I thought it was gonna, I think we talked about it last week. I know the new one came out, but I have not watched it yet, so really can't get into it. Pete, and I don't know.
The new one's really good.
Okay, so you've caught up on it.
I watched it this afternoon.
We don't have to rehash the first episode or anything. I thought it was pretty solid. I like that character. I liked him in the entire Avengers series, and just the fact that he's on some kind of alternate route right now, but still alive is kind of cool. I like that actor too.
Yeah, I tell you what, watching the various Marvel TV shows, it really unlocks for you that is absolutely what they wanted to do with Star Wars when they talked about having the saga films, and they talked about wanting to be able to have Star Wars in different genres, right? That it wasn't always going to be space opera, that they'd have comedy, they'd have mysteries and stuff. And that is 100% what Marvel's, because Loki is it's almost a murder mystery, right? It's a crime procedural. That's really what it is to this point. They haven't gotten into, there's not much magic. There's not, any of that stuff that you normally attribute to Loki. It's been this crime procedural, and it's been a fun little journey. And obviously WandaVision was completely out there as well. Yeah, it absolutely was about.
Yeah, and I thought that's kind of, and ultimately Loki they're in a place, he's in a place right now where not even Infinity Stones have any power whatsoever.
Or meaning.
Meaning. They're using them as paperweights.
Right.
So the way they've kind of flipped everything on its head in this series is kind of cool, and seeing him kind of respond to the fact that he has no power over anything at this point,
right? And
getting that dose of humility, even at the end of the first episode, is very interesting. So I'm looking forward to watching the second episode. In fact, I'll probably do that as soon as we're off here. But then we get to look forward to the Bad Batch tomorrow. I tell you what, guys, I would be okay if Star Wars and Marvel continue to run series at the same time, so we get stuff twice a week.
Phenomenal.
I mean,
speaking of the Bad Batch, last week's episode was amazing.
They finally kind of got and look, we've said it on here a billion times. Anybody who's listened to us, Star Wars fans as well, look, nothing really goes to waste in Filoniverse. It doesn't. So even the episodes that we weren't that thrilled about are going to come back. They're going to pay off at some point in time. And this one, at least, it felt to me, guys, kind of got back. It kind of got back on the rails, so to speak, as far as the kind of Bad Batch plot, and all that stuff is going to mean something later, and it's all going to add to the story. I get it, but at least they got back. That we've all been wondering why. Oh, my head! He's been bitching about it for like a month now, and finally they addressed that. But they didn't just address it with him; they addressed it with all of them. And we get to see one of our favorite from the Clone Wars return in Rex. I know it's a cartoon. My wife would be sitting here and going, "Are you getting emotional over a kid show?"
Yes.
You're goddamn right I am.
No, I'm not getting emotional over a kid show. I'm getting emotional over a character in a
story.
kid show.
I'm getting emotional over Star Wars because nothing embodied Star Wars better than most of Filoni's work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, seeing him return, seeing these guys post Republic that are still kind of confused and making their way and trying to make sense of how things are now. They were at the center of everything during the Clone Wars, and now they're not. And so that's the other thing that's going to be fascinating, I think, as we get closer and closer to this Kenobi series, is how do you mentally handle that? It's like an athlete who retires.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden, Michael Jordan is the center of the sport, the center of everything. He retires. Now I'm kicking out the wizard shit, but
no, but that actually just further illustrates your point, Ron, because he went to play for the Wizards because he couldn't let it go.
Couldn't deal with it.
Nope. Absolutely couldn't. And speaking of being in the interest of nothing going to waste, and this is obviously why we're going to have to at least throw this part up on YouTube after the fact. So I'm going to share the screen with you boys,
all right,
and we can do some of the greatest hits. So there you have it. There is the.
Oh my God!
And those are the animatronic First Order stormtroopers down there. You're saying, right?
Yeah, though I don't recall those two moving, but I mean, as you can see, like that is a life-size TIE fighter.
Oh yeah,
right. There's no messing around with it.
We'll have the video up on YouTube for whoever's.
So you walk out of
the audio. We'll have this up on YouTube so you can take a look.
Yep. So you walk out of the first ride experience that transitions you into the venue where your whole thing. Your whole ride takes place.
So that's not a screen, Pete. That's
not a screen. Though every single one of those is standing in front of you, and you can literally get feet away from them.
That's really cool.
Like if you wanted to get kicked out, you could touch them. You absolutely could. And you can see like that. That's how close you can get. And this is the video I want to show you guys. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit play here. And if you watch, you can see the heads moving. If you look closely, that guy is breathing. One that I stopped on there.
Yeah.
And then you'll see the one on the right there. He turns his head to look at you. And he kind of turns it back. And you're sitting there, and the first time you experience it, you're like, wait a minute, is that animatronic? Or
is one of
there
these
somebody in there?
Yeah, one random one's going to have a real person that's going to jump out of line and come up to
the guy.
Hey,
he's going to step forward and be like,
yeah. Yeah, Pete, how much would, and this is why I'm jealous of your kid and his age right now, because can you imagine if we were able to step into a Death Star 2 hangar,
oh my God,
with a hangar full of original stormtroopers, with a shuttle that was hissing all that, all that fog and everything coming out of it. I mean, I can't even imagine. I hope that at some point in time that stuff can expand. If Star Wars corrects its way and becomes as big as it should be, that they have a part in that park for geezers, and we can just go through there. And
well, they do. I mean, really, they do. If you go there without your kids, right, you can absolutely immerse yourself in it. Right, you pull out that data pad, you start playing the games, and you absolutely 100% throw
my
yourself
God,
in.
If in the Animal Kingdom they had indoor there, Jesus Christ. Come on.
All the little Easter eggs, and I don't know if you saw it when you were there, but when you go to the marketplace, right when you walk into the marketplace, on the left-hand side, there are a couple of drinking fountains, right? And there's even something in Orabesh there, and it's one of the tasks that you can complete, that you can translate it, right? So when you translate what's in Orabesh, it says not fit for drinking water, right? And it's a little bit of a joke, because and I didn't catch it. The boy caught it on Sunday when we were standing there trying to get out of the rain.
Thing, right?
Yeah, there's a Dianoga in what is supposedly the water tank for the drinking fountain. So you're just standing there and you're looking at the water, and all of a sudden an eye pops up above the surface of the water, looks around, and then drops.
And obviously that it's a water tank that's not feeding the water tank. But we saw it because we were refilling. We took our whatever things the boys had, and we were refilling them. One of them had vodka in it, but we marked it with a V. Anyway, no, I'm kidding, but we did. But no, we were refilling the kids' water bottles and mine, and we noticed that a couple of times when we were in there, that there was something not quite right, and there was that little bit of sound that the Dianoga makes when the crash compactor is activated, and you hear it. I think they used the same clip.
I'm sure they did.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff that's really cool. We saw it early on, so I'm sure it's a lot more polished now, especially over COVID. They had time to they had downtime to go in there and tweak and modify and make things a little more interesting. So
did you walk around in Doc Ondar's, the Ithorian
yes,
trader?
Yeah.
That is where geezers get to absolutely geek out, because my buddy Jason and I were in there and the boy was with us. And it was the second time that I had been in there with the boy. And this time he wasn't pulling on me saying, can we go? Can we go? He got it the second time through. And that was kind of his experience just generally with Galaxy's Edge.
Well, I'm
the
sure
second time through with
your first time through, it's just like so much eye candy. You're like wanting to bounce from one thing to the next. Next time through, you're breathing and you're taking it.
Yep. We spent 20 minutes in Doc Ondar's and we didn't buy anything, but we were walking around the room and it's like, there's a General Grievous head and there's Padme's headdress. And there is they have so many things from all over, right? And like the Wampa is the big thing, right? You walk in, you see the Wampa over the doors and you're like, oh my God, because it's impossible to
not
miss.
Sure that the Wampa was there when I went in there.
There is one of the Wampas that I think it was one of the Wampas that they used during Empire is up above in
that wasn't there. Yeah, that definitely wasn't there when I was there, but it was.
There's a I don't know if it was there when you were there. There's a holocron that's like this big. There's a Sith holocron that's probably 18 inches tall.
I had to look at the pictures I had taken.
I mean, that's where the geezers like us get to go and just lose our.
Well, when we went there, so my daughter would have been 3, and you know how sometimes 3 and 4-year-olds with people in costumes, right? They're freak the hell out,
freak out
anything in costumes, and so every time those first order stormtroopers got anywhere near us, we had to go the other way because she didn't even like Mickey Mouse. Like she loved the cartoon, she loved Mickey Mouse at the time. When she saw that thing they did out in front of the castle, she got out of her stroller, turned the stroller around, and got back in it. She didn't want to face it. She didn't want to look at him. We were like 100 yards away, and so that's kind of my experience. Was a little bit of a mixed bag, and I don't know how much of it I really got to soak in, but it was cool while we saw it. The other thing that we went the year before was Legoland, and they had a bunch of Star Wars exhibits at Legoland too, and that was pretty cool. But my God, you go to Legoland in July, how they get those bricks to not fade. They must coat them with every element of UV available to man to get those things to keep those from fading. But Legoland was pretty cool as well.
Yep.
But all right, we're running a little bit deep here, so
we did.
I'm going to jump immediately on Loki as soon as we're done. And when I wake up in the morning, as usual, in the morning, my kid usually watches Bad Batch way before me, so maybe it'll be a lunchtime thing, but I'll catch that tomorrow too. But Pete.
Yes, sir. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends they can subscribe too. We're available on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. And also be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live, 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels, and Turn in 2 with Dylan Dinger and Tito Rivera. And you can send us an email at this show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. You can find Elliot on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot.
And you can find Ron at
TOR_Ron75.
Gentlemen, it kind of felt good not to have a particular show map. It felt good to have my voice crack there. And also I appreciate you guys indulging me a little bit in some Galaxy's Edge talk, because I it's an arm and a leg. But if you're willing to throw yourself into it, and for a Star Wars fan, it's worth every freaking penny.
It is. That's why I'm going back. But yeah, thanks Pete for sharing that. And look, there's another show that's going to be coming out for Gateway City from Brian Swope, who's one of the writers who's put out a few articles for Gateway. It's called Yacker Jacks. I can't spell it for you right now. But Brian will put out an entertaining show. He used to do a few things for us on Cards on Deck. It used to be called Cards Inc. He's changing it up a little bit. It's called Yacker Jacks. That one is going to drop very, very soon. So one more show added to Gateway City. And we're looking for a few more that we're going to add throughout the remainder of the year. But so look forward to that. Hey, if you don't subscribe to us right here, first of all, you're wrong. Do that. If you're listening to through one of our social media feeds tomorrow, but you should also subscribe if you want to get around to it. Go to Gateway City Sports, search that on Twitter, go to it on Facebook. You can also go to it on your favorite podcast app. We're going to be adding a lot more content to that. Another show, Pete, I know it's unfair to you. I haven't told you about these things, but another show, a good friend of mine, Arlington Lane, he's known at A-Train and in the Zone Network, has resurrected my old solo show that I only did about a dozen episodes for, but it was in the cards. He has resurrected that one too. So Pete, we got to add that to our lineup as we announce the In the Cards is back. The A-Train has relaunched, same logo. He actually used some of the same intro music, but he's given it a lot more flavor, a lot more good flavor, because it was just me before. And if you're going to get a solo show, you don't want me, trust me. So lots of stuff coming from Gateway City. We're proud to be a part of that. Until next week, folks, we love you all so much. See you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.